I think I was with Pete, so it's probably in my office. I can take a look tomorrow.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Goffstown Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting of August 2nd. If you would stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The Goffstown Zoning Board is an elected board of 5 members and up to 5 appointed alternates. Currently, the board does have 5 members and 1 alternate, so if anybody is interested in becoming an alternate on the ZBA, please contact Town Hall's zoning office for more information and for an application. The board has a posted agenda for each meeting and tends to follow the items in order. The board will open the public hearing on an application to receive testimony from the applicants, abutters, and affected parties, and to ask questions about the request. The public hearing will then be closed and the board will enter into a deliberative session to discuss the merits of that request. For each application, the board will decide to approve with the conditions, deny, or continue to a later meeting. You're welcome to watch the deliberations this evening, or you can contact Town Hall, the zoning office, to get the results. For an applicant's request to be approved, there must be an affirmative vote of at least 3 members. An applicant can request a continuance if there's not a full 5-member board to act on an application. And as you can see tonight, we do have a full 5-member board, and we have our 1 alternate here. If you're aggrieved by a decision by the ZBA tonight, you have the right to appeal to the Superior Court. However, before appealing to the Superior Court, you must request a rehearing with this board to preserve your right to appeal. Rehearing requests must be filed within 30 days of the decision, and it must state all the reasons why the decision was unlawful or unreasonable. Failure to request a rehearing may forfeit your ability to appeal to Superior Court. So if everyone would please make sure your phones are silent for the course of the meeting, I'd appreciate it. And we will have the board introduce themselves, and we'll start with Derek.
Derek Horn, Town Administrator.
Jason Cody, member.
Gail LeBruck, Chair and Recording Secretary.
Len Stewart, Vice Chairman.
Alan Yaton, member.
Denise Langley, member.
Judy Lane, alternate.
Okay, our first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes to the July 5th ZBA meeting. Do we have corrections, amendments, a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstaining? No abstentions. Motion carries. Okay, the first application is Force 5 Automotive LLC applicant seeking a license and certificate of approval for State RSA 236-115 from the Zoning Board of Adjustment to obtain a license from the Select Board to continue the current Hebert's Towing LLC, DBA Hebert's Used Auto Parts Junkyard Business, owned currently by Shirley Hill LLC by the applicant who will be taking over the ownership of the property. The property is located at 516 Shirley Hill Road, map 3, lot 53, zoned industrial. And I will entertain a motion regarding regional impact, please.
So this is not, I don't think you would, this is not a application in the sense.
Yeah, it's not the same as,
Yeah, so you would not do a finding for regional impact on this.
good, okay. Thank you. Okay,
Do you want us to go
Yeah.
ahead? Okay. Thank you. I'm Chair. I'm Jim Raymond from Upton in Hatfield. I'm with my lawyer capacity tonight. You usually see me. With me is Chris Semple, the applicant. As you heard, Chris is negotiating to buy from the Valancourts the Hebert's Auto Salvage Yard. They have multiple names. Chris now operates, he'll tell you about a smaller facility or business in Concord where he specializes in VW and Audi parts. He'd like to expand. He's limited in his space and is looking for a space, and was able to link up with the Valancourts, who apparently want to move on, so it's a good opportunity for both of them. He will continue to operate the current facility as it is, basically, but adding with his inventory of VW and Audi parts. He's currently licensed in Concord, and he's been operating for some time, so he's an experienced operator. As Derek said, and Gail seconded, this is an unusual procedure. It's not a hearing, it's not an application. Under the state licensing system, auto salvage yards, under the word junkyards, but we don't like to call them junk, it's licensed by the town, by the selectmen. So the selectmen issue a junkyard license that's renewed annually, and it's not transferable, unlike the normal land use permit. You know, you get a variance or a site plan, or somebody buys property, they acquire it, but this license, it's only for that operator. So Chris, although he's taking over the existing facility, has to get his own license from the selectmen. And there's a hearing, when for the selectmen, it's actually a hearing. Here it's just a meeting, it's not a hearing under the statute. So he's going to the selectmen on Monday. But as we passed out, or you saw it in the packet, the statute, RSA 236-115, highlighted the limited role, and I shudder to say limited, but the ZBA's role is to certify that the proposed location is not within an established district, restricted against such uses, or otherwise contrary to the prohibition of the zoning ordinance. Now, we submitted with our application the 2014 site plan approval that the board granted on when they were expanding their existing use. That's the last time it's come before a board, but it was approved. The earlier plan was dated 2002, signed by the planning board on a lot consolidation, and I'm sorry, shuddered to say who the chair was who signed that plan, but that was just a lot line plan. So it's really the site plan that's the important document, and it describes, site plan's a complex lot going on, but it shows the outlines on the site and essentially operating as is. Chris, I don't know if you can add to my explanation of what you do.
Well, you've covered a lot. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Semple. I own Force 5 Automotive, which does specialize in Volkswagen and Audi parts. We do nationwide mail order, as well as local parts for shops and individuals working on their vehicles. I'm looking to move my operation from Concord to Goffstown, and I was able to link up with the Heberts, with the Valancourts, and able to reach an agreement for their property. And we're looking to make the transition.
Now some conditions on closing, so we're looking at a closing later this year, some title issues and the financing line, the usual things, but we're lining up all the approvals now, so when we take over, we can go. So where we are. So what we're asking the board to do is, as I said, limited. Did you give them this form? Do you want to use
I
it?
believe Gail has the suggested form.
I frankly have never encountered this before, and I don't know if Derek has, because we only have one of these in town.
Yes, and since I've been with the town, Hebert's, once you hold that initial public hearing, thereafter, it's an inspection by the town and a simple renewal. So since my time with the town, even when I was the zoning officer, we would simply go out, meet with Mr. Valancourt on site, walk the property. If there are any issues, speak about corrective action, but that was very rare. And then the renewal would go to the select board with no discussion on it, because that's how the RSA is set up. So this is the first time, and since I've been with the town, that we've had a change of ownership or anyone come forward asking for this type of certificate.
And we represent about 35 towns. I did a quick look to find out a form. Didn't find any. I junkyards, they don't change hands that often. So we made up a form, basically. So I made this up, but it meets the steps.
How long have we had this in place?
So this comes out of state law, so this would be the RSA.
It's not a local zoning, it's a state.
Right, it's state, so how long has it been in effect? Because it's changed hands with, the past, I'm just curious. If you've
I don't know, I
ever
didn't
gone
copy
through this
that part of the
procedure before.
statute. Yeah.
So it looks like there were some major amendments in 1992, perhaps?
Okay.
I'm going to look in the book quickly. So I know About 20 years ago, DES was very heavily involved with training of municipal municipal officials on the type of things you could see during an inspection and things that might need correction. So probably about 15 years ago, the DES was really working with both the recycling yards as well as municipal officials to work on those environmental issues. So.
Does the board have any other questions? Denise?
I'm just reading.
Alan?
No, this is a unique situation as far as I can figure out.
Very.
I've never heard
One of
Alan
a-
not to have comments.
One of a kind. Jason?
Well, the only comment is, my middle son used to work there.
Oh.
In his misspent youth.
Okay. Do we have to have a public hearing? This doesn't require?
It does not require a public
I didn't
hearing.
think it
The
would.
select board have a public hearing scheduled for Monday at,
This Monday?
this coming Monday at 6:15
Oh, that's right.
PM
Okay.
on the question of the license. But we did not see anything in the statute that required a hearing at this board. It was simply to the certificate, which is on the second page of your packet.
Yeah. And so we only have to determine that it's not within an established district restricted against such uses and that it's not otherwise contrary to the prohibitions of the zoning ordinance.
Correct.
And then just sign it and
Madam Chair, I'll make that representation, having reviewed the ordinance. I found no special restrictions on this use that would, be one of those factors.
Well, there's always something in there.
I'm sure there is, but,
It's called aesthetic considerations. You need to read that paragraph.
well,
It's just
correct,
crazy.
correct, but if you look at especially it's the application before the selectmen, there has to be a setback. They deal with that in offense, and it's in the licensing procedure. So it's not, they're not immune, but there's no special criteria for this other than,
I think they added that one building in recent years, like 2012 or something like that.
That's the 2014
Yeah,
site plan
okay.
amendment.
So it's been around, it's been modified, it's been heard several times. You know,
Are you looking for a motion? How do you want to handle this?
I think a motion and a vote would be appropriate, and then to authorize Gail to sign the sample certificate, or if the board.
chairman has to sign it.
The chair, yes.
Okay. A motion to approve granting a license for certificate of approval for the state RSA 236115.
I think you are certifying under 236-115 that the
Select
proposed
board.
location,
Oh, okay.
the proposed location of an auto salvage yard at 516 Shirley Hill Road, tax map 3, lot 53, and the site of the current Hebert's used auto parts is not within an established district restricted against such uses, and is not otherwise contrary to the prohibitions of the zoning ordinance.
That's what I mean.
And,
What he said.
and to allow the chair to sign it.
Yes.
Second.
Denise says very well said.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
Denise,
repeat that.
Can you repeat that?
actually, you're certifying that to the Goffstown Select Board in accordance with RSA 236-115, that the proposed location of an automotive salvage yard at 516 Shirley Hill Road, tax map 3, lot 53, the site of the current Hebert's used auto parts is not within an established district restricted against such uses and is not otherwise contrary to the prohibitions of the zoning ordinances. That's what I'm signing,
Okay,
the exact same thing.
perfect.
So,
And that you were authorized.
and that I'm authorized to sign.
Sign it.
The only thing is, whoever wrote my name down here wrote it wrong. They spelled it wrong.
That was me.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't proofread it.
Oh,
How many times have I written your name in CIP minutes?
it's payback for Jim Redmond and
Yeah,
Jim Raymond.
that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me send a revi, good grief. That's embarrassing. I'll follow my own sword.
I
Not
figured it was
now.
somebody in the
Yeah,
office
you
that
don't-
did.
yeah.
Okay, so we have the motion, and all in favor?
Aye.
Do you want me to send a
Any
revised
against
one?
or abstaining? Motion carries.
Thank you, and I apologize, Gail.
That's okay.
But I'll put, in the CIP minutes, I'll put your name up front in black.
Please don't. Do you want me to sign it now?
If you'd like, I can print it, I can run upstairs and print a corrected one off real quick with your,
Right name?
yep, yep.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good, I'll have this one for the minutes.
Good luck.
Good luck tomorrow, Jim.
Is that yours, Matt? Is that?
He's not used to this side, yeah. It's gonna do it all himself.
We're conspiring here. Okay, our next application is Moose Club Park Rentals LLC, applicant owner, seeking a special exception under section 3.11 of the Goffstown zoning ordinance to permit the conversion of an existing single-family home into a 3-unit multifamily building. A variance is also required from the maximum number of dwelling units in section 4.3 of the zoning ordinance. The property is located at 9 Prospect Street, map 34, lot 14, zoned residential 1. And I will entertain a motion regarding regional impact, please.
I'll move no regional impact.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, and we have,
Hi, good evening. Matt Peterson with Keach Nordstrom Associates, here representing the proposed changes at 9 Prospect Street for the special exception and variance as in front of this board here tonight. Unfortunately, I'm here by myself. My client is a fireman in Manchester, and they were saving those cats and animals that were on Beach Street there a couple hours ago. So he's hopefully watching somewhere, but I'm going to fill him in afterwards once we move forward. As stated, the property is located at 9 Prospect Street. I assume you guys got packages. I mean, I've got boards, but I assume Heidi does a pretty good job giving you what you need. It's in the R1 zoning district. It's approximately 13,440 square feet, or about 3.309 acres in size. Currently, the property is operating as a single family. However, it's operated as a 2-family in the past, up until, I guess, the person either passed away in the 2-family and the person stayed and kept it as single. My client has reached out to the town, and we believe that he can convert it back to a 2-family pretty easily by just paying some sewer fees and that type of stuff there. The 2-family is allowed in the R1 without sitting here tonight. However, if you've gone up there and taken a look at the site there, I think we all know what we've gone through the last 5-6 years with the housing market and stuff like that. You guys had done an update to your Goffstown manual there in 2020, so I just took a quick look through. You guys talk about under your vision, protecting Goffstown's rural character and providing housing supply that meets the needs of the residents regardless of age, income, or ability. And then you kind of go into your housing strategies, and you talk about housing strategy encouraging a diverse housing stock while prioritizing the existing character of the community will require Goffstown to examine regulatory obstacles and find opportunities where zoning amendments are appropriate. It also talked about revised zoning to allow housing types as means to increase housing stock to provide more affording housing options. So really, my client asked me to come and have a discussion with you guys and present these forward here and see what, if there's opposition in the neighborhood, if there's opposition from here. Obviously, they purchased it. They're going to move forward with doing the 2-family if they didn't get the extra unit. But one of the things we're finding, and you'll see in your stock inventory, 71% of your stock is single-family homes, not necessarily, mixes of 1-bedrooms or 2-bedrooms and that type of stuff. So obviously, I lived 25 years ago downtown here, so I know the area. It's great to be able to walk to a lot of the amenities that are here. It seemed to make sense to at least come to this board and give our presentation and see what input and questions were with it. Different, if we were to get the special exception and the variances tonight, we would have to go to the planning board still. Obviously, a 2-family does not require that, so there would be some extra steps that they would have to go through and meet the planning board comments and questions that they have as we got to that next step. So that's kind of why I thought it made sense to come forward here. I've given pictures. It looks like you're looking at some of them that are there now. Some of the homes on the road have been redone. The funeral home at the end there, I never realized all the parking until I saw that aerial photo that they have behind the building. It's hidden extremely well. And I drove by it probably a million times in my 26 years in this area, but I thought that was pretty nice. They've done a nice job up there. So again, this would allow us a little bit more flexibility on finishing up the building, as well as adding another unit to the site, which I think in this location with sewer and water, proximity to everything that's downtown, kind of made some sense from our standpoint. With that, I was going to go through the special exception first. I didn't, and just the order I had here, I didn't catch the variance until Derek brought it to my attention later on. That's why your package had it supplemented. But under Section 3, the allowable uses in the zoning district, as I said, we're allowed a 2-family, but the multifamily, which is anything over 2, we're only going from 1 extra one, requires a special exception. So obviously we're going 5, 6, 7, 8, all that special exception. Number 1 on this is the specific site is appropriate location for the use being consistent with the town's current master plan. I had outlined that due to the location of the parcel in the vicinity of the downtown Main Street, which has a mix of commercial, single-family, 2-family, and multifamily units all within a 1-mile radius of this parcel, as well as the availability of town utilities, and what I've read through and gone through in the actual master plan, it's our opinion that this conversion is appropriate location in the town. The second one is the size or frequency of the use will not significantly alter the character of the neighborhood. Again, the current neighborhood consists of single-family, multi-2-family units and commercial parcels along Prospect Street, with more of the same types of uses within the downtown Main Street area. The applicant is a conversion of the single-family building into 3 units with the needed repair and work that would be completed to create this multi-family building will add to the character of the neighborhood compared to the current state of the building. And again, we're looking to increase from 1 to 2 that would be allowed on a duplex to 1 extra with a multi-family. So again, I think the size and frequency, they did come to me originally, how many can I get here, 4 or 5, and we kind of, this lot's got some constraints on that, so I was like, let's 1, I think, there. Number 3, the use will not create a nuisance or hazard of vehicles or pedestrians in a manner that cannot be amortized because, I had submitted for everybody IT trip generation calculations. If this special exception was granted, the IT just states that 3 units would generate approximately 1.38 trips in the morning. That's 23% of them leaving, 77% coming in, so you're looking at 1 going out, 1 coming in, something like that on the percentages. And then in the evening trips, you're looking at 1.68. And just for anybody listening, the morning is between 7 and 9, and the evening is between 4 and 6. The applicant's easy numbers represent that this special exception would not create a nuisance or hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. Proposed location is sufficient size to allow for adequate and appropriate facilities for the proper operation of facilities. As I said earlier, the building has approximately 5,120 square feet of floor area that can be utilized. Currently, it's using 2,808. We see typically units around 1,800 to 1,200 square feet would be studios, single families, and doubles. Again, we're proposing 3 units here. We feel that this is sufficient size to handle those uses. And then number 5, the proposed location is sufficient size to allow the appropriate buffers of the use. Again, this proposal is a special exception to convert an existing building that's on Prospect, so we are doing everything internally in the building. There's no buffers that we're proposing to knock down or add any extra buildings or expand the existing building. I actually think there's part of the building would come down. I think there's a little porch in the back area that's not worth keeping kind of stuff. So, but not expanding the use from that. So, again, we believe that this fits into the requirements of the special exception. Should I go right into the variance? Is that easy enough? Okay.
You want to hear the variance first, or do you want to address the special exception? Does the board have a preference?
I think at some point we need to open to questions.
Well, let's address the special exception.
You're the chair.
Let's discuss the
Make a
special.
decision.
Let's discuss the special exception first, and then we'll address the variance. Does anybody have questions on the special exception?
Certainly.
Go ahead.
Are you gonna be building within the current configuration of the residence?
Yes, sir.
You're not gonna expand it?
I have been told that we are not expanding it, no.
Yeah, because it's right up against the property line on the north side. Or at least that's what the GIS.
Yeah, well, we don't know that's.
GIS isn't always all that accurate.
Correct.
Oh, I think it's pretty close.
But yes, no.
Not a
No
lot.
expansion on the building.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we need to consider the fact that they're gonna make a conversion here, you're gonna add a unit, and it's within the setbacks created by the zoning ordinance?
Typically, the way our zoning ordinance is written is uses, setbacks, lot dimensions are treated separately. There's already a structure within the setbacks, provided they're not making a change to the structure, then changing from single-family to two-family or three-family, in this case, a variance would not be required.
Okay.
And that's how it's been interpreted.
Okay.
And you're right, I mean, if I was in Manchester, they'd ask for the setback variance.
Yes, they would.
Just depends on what town you're in. So here, it does.
I just went through this in Manchester.
Yes, you did. And Glenn does it to me every week.
Okay, anybody else have questions? Jason?
Nope.
Lynn?
No, resounding silence.
Is parking any kind of consideration, if they have to do off-street parking?
What do you have for parking?
So we have not put anything for parking on this here, but I know now that we got to go to planning board, I'm going to have to address parking at the planning
Okay.
board level. We have room in the back of this, as you can see the area that we could put parking back in there. But I really haven't gone to that level because I'm going to need to do some survey and get some plans to go to planning if we got through this level. If we didn't get through this, we were just going to do the two-family, which doesn't require the planning board. But we will have to meet any planning requirements.
Anybody else have questions? Are we good? Ready to move on to the variance then? Alan,
Public?
you want public hearing?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
can finish this.
All right, we'll open up.
Let's finish this segment and get
Yeah.
it
All right,
done.
we'll open up this segment to the public. Is there anybody that wants to comment or ask questions?
Am I the public today?
You are all the public today.
Yeah, this lady asked a question I was considering is important because these houses are very close together.
Could I ask you to come to the table so you can speak into the microphone?
Okay.
And tell us your name and where you live?
Yeah, I'm Susan Perry. I live at 16 Prospect Street, which is diagonally across, I guess, north of the property in question.
Uh-huh. You can have a seat.
We have unusual parking situation. It's a narrow street. We have one side of the street parking only, and the sides of the street changed in the past, I don't know, 8 or 10 years. I was just curious if there's room in towards the back of this lot that would be sufficient for maybe 6 cars, if it's going to be 3 units.
So as I said, at the planning board level there, we've got to take a look at parking. My client did bring up the other day the possibility of a garage back there if it fits in the setbacks for the units, to be able to do that. But we haven't got to that level of that yet. But yes, we would have to put the parking in the back there to meet it, or I wouldn't be able to get the 3rd unit if I can't meet the parking.
Right. So I was just curious in the space to be doing that.
I've done on the GIS map, and there is, but as people have stated, and trust me, I know this, the GIS doesn't always come back exact, so until we do a survey in that, but yes, we will have to address that.
That was,
Do you have any other questions?
no, that was the primary concern.
Okay.
So my recommendation, off the record, is if this were to be approved at our level, then it would go to the planning board, and if you're concerned about parking, that's where you would go, because they control that.
And you'll get the same notice.
Right.
And we'll talk to you before.
Okay, then I'm gonna, if the public comment is ended, then I'm gonna close the public comment on that. And the board will move on to the variance request.
Okay, the variance request is from section 4.3, Table of Dimensional Regulations. Kind of an interesting one. You have to take the calculations of your lot to figure out what you can get for number of units, and when you do that on this lot, I'm allowed 0.925 units, so we're not even allowed 1 unit. So we're here for the variance to allow 3 on this parcel, as outlined on all my discussions earlier, the special exception.
Excuse me.
Oh.
It's silent. It's silent.
Not me for once.
Yeah, I'll let him live that one down. Granted variance will not be contrary to public interest. I would state that granting variances will not be contrary to public interest. More specifically, the requested variance will not unduly conflict with the basic purpose of the relevant zoning provisions, as it will neither alter the essential character of the area nor threaten public health, safety, or welfare. The existing neighborhood will remain largely unaffected with the conversion of this property to a 3-unit dwelling. Spirit and ordinance is observed. The spirit of this ordinance is to prevent overcrowding of buildings and any risk to public safety and welfare. The current neighborhood consists of single-family, multi-family units and commercial parcels all along Prospect with more of the same type uses within the downtown area. The applicant, the conversion of a single-family building into 3 units with the needed repair and work that would be completed to create the multi-family building is within the spirit of the current master plan and the ordinance based on information that I had submitted earlier, reading from the master plan. Granted, variance would do substantial justice. The New Hampshire Supreme Court has said that substantial justice is done in general if the general public realizes no apparent gain from denying the variance. In this case, the general public realizes no appreciated gain and the variance is denied since the neighborhood already has similar properties and the conversion of a single-family home to 3 units can be done in a manner without adverse effect on the general public. This one's the values of surrounding properties will not diminish. I would state that granting the requested variance and allowing the subsequent 3-unit building will not negatively affect surrounding property values. A large investment probably will be required to convert the 3-unit buildings and the property appearance will be improved as a result. Generally, newer and recently renovated properties increase property values, not decrease them. I've been doing this for 26 years. I haven't seen one go down yet, but obviously some things create them, but 99% of the time they do not. Owning to special conditions of property distinguished from other properties in the area, denial of the variance will result in unnecessary hardship. No fair and substantial relation exists between the general public's purpose of the ordinance provisions and the specific application of the revisions because the additional density can be accommodated on-site given the specifics of the existing structure on the property. Both the building and the parcel can and will be improved to safely and adequately provide all the necessary accommodations of good, highly valued residential developments without adversely impacting the neighborhood. Secondly, we propose this use as reasonable because the property is zoned for residential use. And obviously with a special exception, this use is allowed. The increase in density we feel is a reasonable use. And that would be my arguments. Any questions?
Questions? Denise? Alan?
No, I'm all set.
Len?
No.
Jason?
I had just a comment.
Go ahead.
If you look at the rest of the neighborhood and look at the density, we've seen a couple on the street before, and we've increased the density to about the same numbers that we have here.
That's what came to my mind when I first saw this application. They're the ones that we saw previously in that, not on that street, but nearby.
And I would add, living in Gardner Lamps' apartments, yeah, most of them, we're not looking at 20-unit developments down here in the village. I mean, most of the stuff is, you know, your 2 to 6 type units that you have. So I thought the 3 fit in when I talked to the client.
Any questions, comments, anything? No. Okay, then I'm going to open the public hearing. Do you have any questions on the variance request or comments? Okay, then I will close the public hearing. Is there anything else you want to add to this, Matt?
I'm good. My kids and my wife are on Main Street in Henniker listening to Grateful Dead music right now. It goes till 8:30.
You're hoping.
Maybe.
Okay, well, I will close the public hearing, and I guess the board can enter into deliberations. Do we have comments, discussion, motion?
Gail, can you just mention this application was sent to the planning board
Oh, yes.
in accordance with the provisions?
Oh, that's right. Yes, it was.
Of the zoning ordinance that require multifamily or any use that requires site plan to go to the planning board for comment. They had no comment on this
I
application.
saw
Right.
that.
Yeah.
It came back
Thank
to
you.
us.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Derek.
They knew they were gonna see it anyways.
Right. Okay, so, I'm looking, listening.
I'll make a motion on the special exception.
Okay,
I motion to grant the applicant a special exception under 3.11 of the Goffstown zoning ordinance to permit the conversion of an existing single-family home into a 3-unit multifamily building.
okay.
Second.
That's mine, I think. It's gonna keep, I'm gonna leave it alone. Okay, so we have the motion, we have the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And do we go on to the variance?
I'll make a motion to grant the variance to the property at 9 Prospect Street, map 34, lot 14, from the maximum number of dwelling units in section 4.3 of the zoning ordinance to allow for a 3-family home at that location.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. You're good.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Enjoy
Have a
the
good night.
concert.
See you
Music
at
or
that.
whatever there was going on.
They do music on Main Street on Tuesdays.
Oh,
and
that's
just
fun.
Everybody in town see me cruising down for this one. Not a great football team.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Thank you again. Have a great night.
Okay. Derek, do you want to review this for us and tell us what it means for the board?
Okay, yes, so Patty did include in your packet a little guide on 2 recent bills that were passed. The first is House Bill 1661, which was kind of a bill that brought in pieces from many other bills. There are some items about land use training as well as publication fees. I think the biggest item is on page 2 under section 73.
1 sec, okay?
Yep.
Can you just give me 1 second? Are you okay to do this?
No.
Okay. No, you didn't? I
didn't
didn't
look.
look
Yeah, I
at one
wondered,
of mine,
did she
okay?
just, did we get it in print or just?
I'm not seeing that.
Maybe
We
she
got that as
said,
a separate email.
was that a separate email?
Yeah, I think so.
I remember reading it, but I didn't
Yeah, I
print it.
didn't.
I can we
that's
can drop
okay.
printed ones in.
You
if
can share.
Okay.
But on page 2, one of the items that changes for local land use boards are requiring written findings.
Oh, my goodness.
And this change goes into effect August 23rd, so this change will be in effect at your next meeting and moving forward. I think you've done a pretty good job of stating reasons for denials. I think you'll need to, on some applications, you'll need to start coming up with some written findings. Again, I think we can, if you have an application that you feel strongly about, we can involve town council to assist with some of those written findings. We could, you can get to a point where you can continue the public hearing to your next meeting if you think. So I think that's gonna be a little bit of a learning process.
Yeah, because we have to do it for approvals and denials for
It's for
one.
approvals and denials.
So I have a little cheat sheet that I used to use when I first started. I gave it to you.
I use mine.
For, yeah, I guess I passed them on when I,
You didn't give
But
one
it-
to me.
well, I figured you were a pro. Yeah, but I used to use them for every case, just to help me think of it, so.
Cool.
And again, this was written for all local land use boards, so they may have been, they talk about how the application meets regulations and checklists. That's really more of a planning, as you're a quasi judicial board already. You are following those, whether they're the special exception or the variance criteria. You are hitting upon that, but we can work on that. The ZBA timeline, there is a 90-day clock that now starts for the ZBA. Some of you that have had some experience with the planning board know that there's historically been a 65-day clock, but there is now a clock for ZBA decisions as well.
Now, would that pertain to an application such as those that have had to been continued because the board there wasn't a full 5-member board and they opted to go to reschedule on their own?
I will have to look at it. The applicant does have the ability to an extension. So if for some reason you had multiple meetings in a row where you had less than 5 members, I think what we would do is ask the applicant to agree to an extension if they weren't ready to go forward. But yeah, so there'll be, again, a process item, but it does require 90 days unless extended. And then if you don't have sufficient information to act on the application, then it would be a denial without prejudice.
Right. I mean, most applications we tend to get through with in an evening, but if something were to be continued on, staff is going to be keeping count of those days, the number of days, so that they can let us know.
Yep. So we'll let you know that. I'll start putting that in the review on, when the application was received and what your timeline is looking like.
Okay.
Again, this was one of those catch-all bills where they throw a little bit of everything in. So there's some other items in here. Those are the ones that I thought were the biggest ones that pertain immediately to you. There's quite a bit of items in here on housing, and I've been working with Joanne on those items, on some of the housing programs to see what might be available out there for grants, as well as if we have anything in our regulations that need to be changed. And then you have House Bill 1021. This one's getting a lot of discussion on the planners email listserv, specifically because it talks about religious uses, and pretty much you can't, the new statute provide, I forget where it was, but it basically talks about how your zoning and site plan regulations apply to religious uses, and it gives them far more, I guess, leniency to where they can be located. So if you have a residential district that might have required additional lot size for that type of use, it can be put in there. So there's a lot of talk on this on the planner side at the state level, where Joanne and I have been looking at our regulations again to see if we need to bring forward anything to the planning board. But and then that's pretty much it. Again, training. The Office of Planning and Development, the old OEP office, they've been charged with developing training, which I know that you have the handbook. You have the ZBA handbook, NHMA, and they work together to do annual training, so they're going to keep up that. So.
I like that they have it online too.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Just going back for a moment to the ZBA timeline question, when does the clock start ticking? At the meeting where it's first considered?
As soon as the town gets the application.
So it's a little bit different process with planning board. Planning board has they have to take an official vote to accept an application as complete. That starts their clock. There has never been that requirement for a ZBA application. Again, I have not looked at the specific wording in the law, and we will look at that and have that information at your next meeting, but I assume it will be upon submittal to the office here that their clock starts. Because again, ZBA does not accept an application as complete.
Right.
Whereas planning board, that is a formal decision that they must make, and then that starts a 65-day clock.
So it would start when they bring the application into town hall then?
Yes.
And they've got it usually a good couple of weeks to get the packet ready.
Your
for the
application
tax.
deadline is 21 days before the meeting, which allows us sufficient time to have somebody in-house review it, send out the notice to the newspaper and the abutters. So it really is a two-meeting,
That was just,
it could be a two-meeting application.
Okay.
so I just want, so I can understand this. So the applicant decides not to meet, they can ask for an extension.
Correct.
Okay, so they're not in danger of
Right.
jeopardizing.
Because
it.
otherwise we would have to deny without prejudice, and you'd have to start all over again.
Yeah, and then they'd have to resubmit,
So it's-
renotice, yes.
So it's not necessarily in their best interest
No,
to say no
but what
extension.
this is doing, it's getting us to, which we do. I mean, it's rare.
I don't remember.
We do,
very-
maybe not every other
Well, no,
town
well,
does.
there's been some drag-ons, but, you know,
We haven't had
typically,
very many, we've had a
No.
couple,
just a
but-
couple in the years I've been on.
yeah, okay.
I think the Supreme Court is getting tired of hearing cases that revolve some of these issues.
Yes.
Having, go to zoning boards in other communities, we treat people really good in terms of timing.
Good, glad to hear that. It's important to me.
Okay,
Good.
I have something.
what's that?
I noticed when we came in that the New Hampshire State Election Day is Tuesday, September 13th, which is a date of one of our zoning board meetings.
I'm worried that we may have changed it to the 13th, thinking that the election was on the first Tuesday, but it wasn't. So that's probably what we did, is did we
Oh, I
move?
just looked it up and it said State of New Hampshire's Election Day is the 13th.
It is, but I'm wondering when
We
we did,
Oh.
did we change the September hearing?
Oh, when I looked at
Oh, the zoning board hearing?
When I looked at it, it said September 13th.
I think we moved it when you adopted it. Let me see if I can bring up the,
Because the day after Labor Day was not a day that we wanted to meet.
Oh.
Well, I don't know, because we've.
We
never-
did talk
no,
about
I think I suggested that we moved it to the second Tuesday. And the same thing happens in November, because November 1st is a Tuesday, but the election is actually the first Tuesday after the first Monday is how it's written. It's not written as the first Tuesday, it's the first Tuesday after the first Monday. So,
I had to think of that.
That would still put it in on the 8th.
Hold on. let me
So it
check.
can't be in the first, it's basically.
September, limit, September,
yeah.
There it is.
You have,
I have it in my calendar, because
ZBA
Kathy
meetings.
asked me about working, and I have it in my calendar as working on the 13th.
But do you have a
Yep.
meeting?
September 13th.
I think when, we
That's
set
when-
it, we put it on September 13th, so what we really should be doing is moving it either back to September 6th and November 1st, or finding an alternate date. Because yes, I don't think, I know Gail works at the polls, I'm also usually there in the
I'm
evening.
working at the polls too, so.
So I guess the request would be to move the meeting scheduled for September 13th back to the 6th, or some alternate date, and,
I can be here, so I'm available the day after.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah,
I am too.
Okay, do we want to have a motion?
Sure. I'll motion that we move the September meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment to Tuesday, September 6th, 2022, with an application due date of Tuesday, August 16th, 2022.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that. I just have a question after.
Okay. You want to ask the question?
Is it too late to change our meeting where we're giving them the date to put in their application is a week earlier than posted right now? It's August.
I guess if you'd like,
We can keep the date.
you could keep the application deadline as was previously posted.
You guys are gonna be working hard to get us that before.
That's
the
fine,
weekend.
I mean, if it's only 2 months, I mean,
Okay.
because it would be
So-
it would be that month, and again, I'd ask for the November meeting.
We changed
So-
it for 3 weeks so that they could get
Yeah, the November meeting, there's plenty of time to get them on the proper schedule for that.
Yeah. Well, let's hope there's no
That's
renewals.
November 8th, yeah, that is November 8th.
Oh, so November.
So the November 8th should be moved to November 1st as well.
Okay,
Oh,
so,
okay.
so I'll.
Wait a
I'll-
minute, no, because we would have a meeting on November 1st.
Yes, but at the when you adopted this schedule, I think I advised you to move it to the second Tuesday in September and the second Tuesday in November.
Oh.
Trying to avoid elections, and what I did is I pushed it
right
towards.
into the election.
Okay, so, all right, so let's take a vote on the September meeting.
Count
Hang
to
on, Gail, I'll modify my motion to eliminate the application due date change.
So it would just be the meeting date, we would
Okay,
keep the,
all right, so we have the motion to change the September meeting to September 6th and eliminating the due date, application due date change.
no, maintaining the,
Or maintaining
that was
the
previously
schedule that was
posted.
previously posted. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And are we doing the same for November?
And we're gonna do the
But we
same,
don't have to change that date that's posted because, I mean,
That's-
we
that-
can change it.
That's up to you,
Yeah,
that's,
what do you wanna do? Change it or not?
that's 2 months
Doesn't
ago,
really
that's 2
matter.
months away.
Well, it's up to you, you're the one that's getting the
I think
packages
for those
together.
2 months, because we had previously advertised it, you might have somebody that got a copy, and that's what they're working off. I'd hate somebody
Well,
come in
yeah,
a
you're
couple
right. Some
days
people
late.
work a long time ahead.
Yeah.
So I'll motion to just change the date to the
November
1st.
Second.
okay. And keeping the application due date the same?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, so that's what we'll do,
Thank you, Jason, for catching that.
yes.
Good job.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Good night.
Look at, he's like, so does this one?